such diabetic retinopathy, it's a difficult situation. But what we heard from the teachers, you can at least treat to some extent. But there are some situations even it appears more confusing. Now, if there is coexisting cataract, how you will go ahead with this situation in diabetic retinopathy? So there is always a dilemma in the diagnosis. The vision loss is due to cataract or due to diabetic retinopathy that you have to find out. So with your clinical judgment and necessary investigation, you have to know actually the vision loss is due to diabetic or cataract or the combination. Then only you can plan with your treatment. So you have to be very, very careful when you plan your treatment strategy. And one thing everybody knows, doing cataract surgery in diabetic retinopathy, it actually worsens the situation. So when you are going to do the treatment, which treatment first, which next? So in this situation, what I found, usually we come across three particular situations. Number one, significant cataract with early PDR. So PDR is, early diabetic retinopathy. There is certain kind of diabetic retinopathy, but your cataract is significant. Then a proper assessment, as I told, confirm that vision loss is due to cataract only. Then go ahead with cataract surgery after proper study of the systemic condition. I repeat, you must stabilize the systemic condition. If there is no sign of diabetic retinopathy related vision loss, is only related to cataract, you can go ahead with your planned cataract surgery. But the thing is, you have to be very careful when you are doing the cataract surgery. There should be minimal manipulation. You have to be sure that you are not complicating the situation. And most of the cases may be sometimes related with small people. So an experienced surgeon is better. But still you have to know what are the situations you have to handle. And condition will follow for any condition of diabetic retinopathy in this situation. And suppose the situation of cataract significant with diabetic retinopathy change. Vision loss is due to both. So you must treat the diabetic retinopathy first. Ideally, when the cataract does not preclude the laser treatment, effective control of retinopathy and maculopathy for at least 3 months before surgery. So your retinal status should be stabilized. You have to be sure that your macular thickness is not increasing and condition is stabilized. Then you can go ahead with your cataract surgery. And sometimes intravitreal anti-VEGF has to be given. Like if the cataract is so much that laser is difficult, but you know with your OCT there is macular edema, so you can go ahead with anti-VEGF treatment. And some studies also advocate you can combine anti-VEGF treatment with your cataract surgery, but you have to judge carefully in this situation, because doing anti-VEGF treatment, if you are not a retina specialist, you can create lots of problems. So you have to be very careful, and if possible, a retina specialist should be there to do the anti-VEGF. And doing the cataract surgery, you have to be very careful, as I told. Sometimes you see resistant pupil. You may see some NV in the iris, NV is there. So you have to know all these situations before you handle the case. And ideally, you should avoid a multifocal lens. Acrylic IOL preferable over silicons. If this patient may need vitrectomy subsequently, you never know that he may have to use a silicone oil. So better to avoid silicone lenses. And you try to minimize the post-operative inflammation in these cases. You use appropriate dose of your steroid combination, antibiotic, but you have to reduce the inflammation. Minimal inflammation has to be there. And third situation, a diabetic retinopathy related complication has already developed with hemorrhage, textural retinal detachment, or combined RD along with significant cataract. So best preferable technique will be a combined surgery. You do a good phaco or cataract surgery. Along with that, you have to go ahead with your posterior segment surgery. A combined surgery can make two surgeries in one, but it may not be possible in all the setups. So if you are not comfortable, you can go ahead with the cataract surgery and send the patient to your colleague for the posterior segment surgery. So that is something about the cataract coexisting with diabetic retinopathy. So what we do in a pregnant lady, in pregnancy, how the scenario? See, diabetic retinopathy is worsened during the pregnancy. Type 1 diabetic has twice the risk of developing proliferative diabetic retinopathy, and the duration is significantly correlated with the progression. Though we are not sure about the exact mechanism, but both metabolic and maybe the hormonal factor contribute in this condition. And the risk is that if the baseline control is poor and you try to reduce the glycosylation hemoglobin very greatly, very suddenly in the first trimester, it may have deleterious effect on diabetic retinopathy itself. So baseline severity is strongly predictive of the adverse outcome. And a young woman should be seen and counseled before pregnancy if she is diabetic and having diabetic retinopathy, and a follow-up should be done every trimester. And if you detect proliferative diabetic retinopathy, before pregnancy you do the treatment, and during the course of pregnancy, if you still detect diabetic proliferative stage, then you have to do the proper laser treatment. Some gray zones are there. FFA, whether you will do FFA in a pregnant lady. A study in 1990, which is published in ASCO, actually proved that there is no detriment on developing fetus by doing fluorescent angiography, but we are still by doing to do the fluorescent angiography. So better to avoid as much as possible, and otherwise, if you have to do at all, then it has to be discussed with the other faculties, like in this situation what you are going to do. But if necessary, maybe sometime it can be done, but preferably not to do. And again, doing anti-VEGF, I don't see any contraindication of giving anti-VEGF because it's giving very small dose with just cavity. But maybe somebody can raise the question whether it will give or not. So these are some gray zones. And vitrectomy, of course, if patient develop vitreous hemorrhage and or combined or tractional detachment, if necessary, you have to go for the surgery. And the termination of pregnancy to avoid the serious visual loss from diabetic retinopathy, I'm sure that it is still a matter of controversy. It still needs some more discussion. So that is something about the pregnancy. And suppose patient is on dialysis. You see, diabetic retinopathy and diabetic nephropathy almost goes in the same course. And the type of dialysis done in end-stage renal disease is a peritoneal dialysis can be done, or a hemodialysis, or it can be ambulatory continuous peritoneal dialysis. So patient can have diabetic retinopathy and he may be on dialysis. So how to go ahead with these conditions? You know that persistent albuminuria more than 300 microgram per minute is the clinical hallmark of nephropathy. So patient with diabetic nephropathy on dialysis often encountered for visual loss in our practice. And high risk is associated with older age onset, hypertension, smoking, high LDL, and family history, etc. So diabetic retinopathy progress rapidly if there is nephropathy, and they often present with gross macular edema, lots of hard exudates. And in these cases, you better avoid angiogram because kidney function is not proper. So we have to avoid the fluorescent angiogram. And whatever we do, we have to do with the consultation with the nephrologist. And giving anti-VEGF, I think it still can be given. And laser is safe even in dialysis patients, even anti-VEGF, because this is given intravitreal. But still, you take a clearance for the from the nephrologist before giving an injection. But for laser, you need not take a clearance. So a Japanese study has shown that no patient in the peritoneal dialysis group showed worsening during 1 year of observation, and whereas during the same period approximately 20% of hemodialysis patients showed substantial progression of diabetic retinopathy. So this difference between these two types of dialysis may be related to a more stable hemodynamic status and a lack of exposure to heparin in patients who is undergoing peritoneal dialysis. So that is something about dialysis and retinopathy. Maybe some more questions will come out. And the fourth difficult situation, if you have a massive hard exudate, already we had somebody told that if there is massive hard exudate, how you go ahead. Exactly what Dr. Guha told, with a systemic control, even a massive hard exudate can completely resolve. I will show you the Retinal hard exudates usually encountered in patients with diabetic retinopathy result from the leakage of lipoproteins from retinal capillaries into the extracellular space of the retina. So basically these are the lipoproteins which are leaking. Dense lipid exudates in the center of fovea is associated with poor prognosis. And already we had a sentence from Dr. Niraj. Doctor has told that when you do haphazard treatment, this can migrate to the center of the fovea. It can cause foveal fibrosis. So there is a study that high lipid profile is associated with hard exudate. Severe hard exudate usually associated if the lipid is very high. This is a chart showing the level of lipid. So aggressive management of raised cholesterol and triglyceride with lipid-lowering therapy is beneficial. If you see this picture, pre-treatment and post-treatment, without doing any anti-VEGF treatment or any laser treatment, only control of lipid by medicine, you can see this picture. You can see the picture that there is complete resolution, almost complete resolution of this macular edema. So we use statin or phenolphthaleate. Just 3 minutes before I finish.
Time is over. We just got 3 minutes left for Dr.
Okay. So thank you very much.